All right, guys, how do you start your business now and file it and do all that fun stuff? So we're going to start at the very beginning. If you're just thinking about selling on Amazon, like when do you need to start a company? So Paul, I guess you've done this before. You've seen a lot of people. What stops a lot of people here? And like, when should they make a business? Do they need to have everything properly done, all these fancy bells before they even order a sample? Or like, how do you suggest people thinking about starting a company and starting selling from like this legal and tax and, all that fun perspective?
That's a great question. And it's one I deal with a lot, especially with new sellers. I feel like the LLC has been on oversell mode in terms of that you have to have this LLC working before you can do anything on Amazon. And, a couple of things I would consider, one is, what are you selling? Have you ever sold before? Is this for you? Because, for example, in the state of California, the moment you form that LLC, they're going to want that $800 annual fee. And if you're a startup and you're starting a product from scratch, $800 is a lot of money for that tax, plus the fees for setting the thing up, registering with the Secretary of State. It takes a lot of time and effort. So, I always get a little bit discouraged when I meet somebody who hasn't sold a thing or even started the sourcing process. They've already had their LLC, and then, I meet them at an event. They're like, I'm thinking about selling on Amazon. I already formed my LLC, or even worse, I formed my LLC and registered in every state. I think there's a number of considerations. If you're selling something, if this is the product of your life, like you just came up with the coolest idea ever, and you kind of have that instinct that this is really cool, you want to have an LLC set up because you're really taking a product you invented and bring it to market. If you're getting into Amazon more on the Alibaba train of, I'm going to put my label on a product that's kind of out there and try to work the rankings and sell the product based on, software that's telling me that this is a good idea, maybe go ahead and try that first and see how it goes.
If it's not dangerous.
Right. Well, I was just literally about to go there. That caveat to that being, if you're worth a lot of money, the LLC should be immediate and should be done right. If you're coming into this like this is a midlife, you are an executive at a big company and you're worth a substantial amount of money, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you have assets to protect, you should be taking steps to protect those assets before you get into this business, and certainly having an LLC. But if you're you're right out of college and you've got $3,000 to your name, I don't think it's crucial that you necessarily go and form that LLC right away and have all of the business, nonsense and upkeep that goes along with it. If, you might find that it's not for you. You might find very quickly that Amazon selling is not for you. And it's just one more thing you have to hire lawyers and accountants for to help you with. And, when the random letters come in the mail that you got to do this, that, and the other. So
what you're saying, like very simply taking it back, you don't need to start a company to actually start selling is basically what you're saying here. But if you have things to protect, a business will separate you from the company and protect your assets. But if you don't have much to protect, you can still start without starting a business. Is that kind of the general?
Right. Like, for example, retail arbitrage. And I always tell the sellers to do this even before they go into starting private label. Go arbitrage something on Amazon. Go sell a little bit, just because you need to know what Seller Central is like. You need to learn the process. So just to do that, for example, like if you're in retail arbitrage, there's really not a whole lot of need for you to be forming an LLC, unless, again, you need the assets to protect, things like that. You can sell in your own name. We have this thing called sole proprietorship, where you can actually just operate a business out of your own name. You can even get a tax ID, which is really just a mirror of yourself without being an LLC. You can get a tax ID from the government that you can use and give to people. It's not your social security number. But in effect, it has the same thing. It's the government doesn't really look at it as being anything other than you. And
you get a DBA too, right? So that you can name it whatever you want, basically.
Right, exactly. So you can do all of those things. It's just, LLCs cost money to form. They cost money to maintain. Usually complicated stuff can happen where you get like letters and bills from the government saying you owe this tax or this fee, and that forces you to have to hire an accountant or a lawyer. It's like, save yourself that hassle until you kind of really know it's for you. I guess that's my one caveat. But that said, if you're starting a business and you have like I said, this is the product of your life, like you don't believe you could ever come up with anything this amazing, and it's like all the Shark Tanks would be fighting over your product, and it's patentable and it's trademarkable, and then you probably want to go ahead and form the LLC and have the intellectual property IP owned by your LLC before you go into it, and certainly before you go into China. You want to start having that stuff in the works. But if you're just sort of, hey, this is a cool lamp, it's trending on Amazon, I'm going to put my label on it. Again, for asset protection purposes might be a good idea, but if you don't have assets to protect, you can probably get away with it. Again, especially if money is an issue, if cash flow is tight, because you're really starting from scratch.
All right. Well, so that I think is a really good decision matrix if you should start a business and when. So we're going to end it there. So that's going to be, should you start a business? So now we'll cover when you should start a business and how in the next video.